Do you have anything to do with this? Look at me when I'm talking to you. That's it. You're in trouble now.
This past weekend, Hitman finally came out for everybody on VR for PC, and I've been playing it a lot over the weekend, so now I'm going to share my thoughts with you on it. Originally, this was a PlayStation VR exclusive for virtual reality, and while I thought it was fun, it looked like somebody smeared Vaseline all over the screen. The controls were bad, and you can consider this video an extension to the Hitman video I dropped before it came out on PC for VR.
Keep security tight.
So Hitman for PC on VR, we had some expectations and I think it's pretty good, but there's also a few caveats that we gotta talk about. First off, yeah, it's Hitman in VR and it's pretty fun. It's fun to mess around in this. Something about being in that third person camera makes me feel like there's a little more consequence to what I'm doing, but when I'm in that first person perspective and I'm holding a banana, you already know I gotta just hit everybody with the banana. I'm not just gonna hold this and use it tactfully.
Sir?
So if you're not familiar with Hitman in virtual reality, let me make sure I'm not peeking the fuck out of this microphone. But before we get ahead of ourselves here, if you're not familiar with the Hitman series in virtual reality, basically the trilogy for the past 3 Hitman games is completely playable in VR. You can play all of the content from Hitman in virtual reality. This isn't like a little spin-off mini-game type of deal. This is the entire game. So that's good. That's real good. That's what we like. If you're familiar with these bad boys, Hitman in VR is going to take advantage of both of them. I don't know if there's any PC games that only use a controller, but in case there is, this isn't one of them. You can use your arms, you're going to be swinging them around. Like I previously mentioned, the game is entirely playable from start to finish as it would be in the normal game, so all of the objectives are all laid out the exact same way. You can move around the levels as free as you would in the original game without VR, but you're probably curious about the VR specific stuff, so we'll just jump right into that.
Mister, what the hell was that? You gotta know, man. Hey!
First off, you're able to grab pretty much any item and move it around and inspect it and get a good look at it. You'll notice a lot of little details that you usually wouldn't have paid attention to, like maybe you're looking at the label on the rat poison, or you're walking around, you go into a laundry room and you're reading like the branding decals on the shelf. These are all little details that you'll naturally notice in VR that you probably would have completely overlooked in the base game. Closest comparison that I think I can make is when I was playing, what the fuck is that game called? Contractors in VR, and I was playing Modern Warfare 2 maps and I was looking around and I was just noticing all the little details. It'll kind of be a similar situation with Hitman. You'll have a new perspective and a new fresh take on all of the maps.
What was stolen?
A US. What the? Oh, isn't that yours?
So you use items kind of the same way you would in the PC version, but I almost feel like there's a little bit better of a flow to it and you can use stuff a little bit quicker than you would in the regular base game. So for example, you get throwables, and the way you throw weapons is I'm just gonna hold these for fucking reference. So when you have a throwable, you know you aim it. So you'll aim it with this hand and then you use this hand to throw it and actually make a throwing motion and you'll throw objects. Of course, with guns, you're gonna aim and shoot the gun. No shit.
Drop the shotgun this instant.
There's a VR specific aim assist, like you get a laser pointer if you just slightly push down the trigger, which is a neat little touch. I didn't really use it because I kind of just like spraying all over the place.
Try running away from this!
Oh, what's new to VR is that you get this little holster. So when you're walking around, you'll notice this little circle in the middle of the screen, like in the middle of your body right here.
What the fuck's that? Like a little circle?
That's where you put your last used item. So if you pick something up and you just want to drop it in your inventory, you pick it up, drop it in the middle of the circle, and then it's there. Unless it's an item that you can't do that with or your inventory's full. I don't know what's going on with my voice. So if you last equipped a pistol and you want to pull that bad boy out, you do like that and you're good to go.
Sir, you can't leave that here.
Hiding bodies, that works a little bit differently. Okay, so first off, you know the razor wire, whatever the hell this shit's called, fiber wire? When you choke people out, I was a little disappointed to learn that you can't drag them around with the fiber wire like you could in the regular game, because that would have been fun, you know, just swinging them all around in virtual reality. That seems like a missed opportunity. they'll just kind of like pop off your fiber wire after you knock them out, but it's still kind of funny. So when you're dragging bodies, you just drag them as you normally would, but you can actually put a little ass behind it, and you can actually kind of throw them and let go of them, and you'll kind of move them around a little faster, a little hot tip, little VR meta strat. So in the PSVR section of my Hitman video, I mentioned that you could just walk around and one punch people, instantly knock them out. And here it doesn't seem to work that way. You have to hit them a few times to knock them out unless you hit them with a critical. So you'll find yourself kind of awkwardly swinging around sometimes if you don't knock them out on the first go. But also there's like this, I'm gonna call it the slapping mechanic, where if you're not holding the fist by holding a trigger, you can just flail your arms at somebody and just kind of lightly hit them, and sometimes it'll make a smacking noise.
Good job.
Excuse me.
The other way that this comes into play is your arms and hands are kind of like this physical object, so if you knock somebody out, you can actually just kind of like, without holding the triggers, just push them along with your arms. That's a really fun thing to do. It can also be another quick way to hide bodies that you just knocked out if you got to move them a little bit of a distance. It's kind of funny.
Hey, is that even yours?
Or you can just kind of push them into a body of water that you couldn't do in the regular base version of the game. Hot VR meta strats. Other VR specific features. So if you're blending in as a certain character, like you're a cook at a stove, you'll actually get like a little napkin or a rag and you gotta wipe the stove with it. Like you'll actually be doing the motion instead of just watching the dude do it. That's cool.
Thank you. So, you must know everything that goes on at the event. Care to give me the lowdown?
Let's see. Most of the guests have already arrived.
Like I kind of touched on a minute ago, the act of actually using objects seems to be a little smoother and quicker in VR. Like you can throw an object, switch to another object, throw that object, you can pull out a gun, drop it, pull out another gun really quickly. And then another way this comes into play is with the disguises. You'll pretty much just immediately swap into a disguise when you select disguise. This can sometimes work to your benefit. If you need to quickly get into a disguise before somebody comes around a corner and sees you, you don't get that little animation that plays out. You're just immediately disguised as that person.
Come on, talk to me, man. Can you believe this prick? Is he a friend of yours? I hope not.
As far as VR specific features, I want to say that's about it, which will lead us into the caveats of the VR version. I just hit the mic, hopefully that doesn't sound horrible.
Ow! Ow!
So before we can even go further with the caveats, I do need to preface this by saying that this originally came out on PlayStation VR as an exclusive mode. That's for this little headset right here, and in case you didn't know, the way that this headset works with VR is it uses a camera that sits on your TV or it mounts somewhere, and you always have to stay within that line of sight for the camera to pick up the lights on the headset. This means that you couldn't move in 360 degrees, you couldn't bend down, lean over too much, or you would kind of lose tracking, which is why the tracking was a big issue on this version of the game.
It's like you're not getting how serious I am here, man.
Luckily, tracking for the most part seems decent on the PC version, but it's also kind of limited. You're kind of limited to that same range of motion as if you were facing a camera. Usually in most VR games, you can physically walk around your play space. Like if you're in a room, you know, you can kind of step to the side and your character will step to the side, or you'll just be like a set of floating hands, so it doesn't matter where you're physically standing, because like in the case of this, you have cameras all around the headset, which I think most headsets are doing now, or you got the base stations that are planted up in the corners of the room. It doesn't matter where you're physically positioned, the tracking in the headset always kind of keeps track of that. But in this game, the solution is that if you need to reset your camera, as if you were playing in PSVR, you click the analog stick and it resets your camera, almost as if you were playing in a seated mode, if you know what I mean. So like if you were playing and you were sitting down and you knew that you wouldn't be standing up or moving around at all, or swiveling around, this is how you would play. But also you can't really swivel around. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work very well. Like if you want to look behind you and turn 180 degrees, your body is still kind of acting like it's standing here and you're swiveling your head 180 degrees. I think this is a side effect of it originally coming out on PlayStation VR, and this is just something they didn't account for. Along with that is that you can't physically crouch. To crouch, you have to actually crouch by pushing down on the analog stick. Little bit annoying there. Also, you'll notice that you have arms in the game, so if you reach out a certain amount, you can't lean over and just get that extra little leverage because your body, again, is stuck in position to wherever you reset the camera to. It's a little tricky to explain, so hopefully me commentating this and actually showing you video kind of gives you the general idea of what I mean by this, but it kind of takes you out of the experience a little bit and makes it a little janky. On this controller setup, you'll run with the grip button, and sometimes it feels like I'm kind of running at an angle for some reason. So I'm kind of like gripping, and then I'm running in one direction, and I'm gonna have to move with the analog stick. The movement is a little bit jank in that regard, and that, again, just comes down to the fact that if you look around, you know, in your physical space, it'll throw your tracking off it because your body stays in that one spot. It's almost like you have to be constantly moving and looking with the analog sticks and not your body, which it kind of works, but also when it doesn't work, it really takes you out of it, and you find yourself constantly resetting your camera position. Another side effect of this fixed camera perspective is your quick access menu. You know, a little circle you grab items out of. Well, if you're looking in this direction, it'll be right here. So it's like you turn your body, your game body thinks you're still doing this. So that's really the way you know that you're not lined up with what the game thinks your camera should be. For any of you lefties out there or with specific control needs, you're gonna find this a little janky too, because there really isn't a lot in the way of controller options. In a lot of games, especially shooters, I like to make my dominant hand for the guns my left hand, where the normal functions are with my right. There's no option to use your left hand for anything. Most of your actions in the game are gripping objects with your right hand, and you can only use your right hand for weapons. So if that's something that's going to throw you off a little bit, just be prepared for that. Not game breaking, but it could be a little awkward. I guess the final point worth mentioning would be obviously the visuals. Now, in the PlayStation VR version, the visuals were really rough. I mean, it was really hard for them to get this thing running on it, obviously. The draw distance was horrible, the crowds were horrible, the pop-in was horrible, and a lot of that has been fixed in the PC version. Now there's actually crowds in front of you, which is nice because that's kind of part of Hitman. The draw distance is better. You can actually kind of see out in the distance without things popping in and rendering every 2 seconds, but the visuals still look a little bit on the lower quality side. They have a quality setting in the options, and I put it to its highest setting, and it still looks a little rough, and I'm not really sure what to do about that. I'm sure there's some workarounds where you could get a slightly better resolution, but it just seems like some of the visual elements definitely took a back seat. Maybe that's something they'll patch in later, or maybe that's something that somebody will mod in later, but if you're expecting one-to-one PC visuals to transfer over into the VR version, you're not going to get it. I mean, it still looks okay, but I was definitely hoping for a little bit more on the visual side, as I was hoping for a little bit more of a refinement overall.
Answer me when I'm talking to you.
Hey, idiot.
Oh, I almost forgot. Scopes don't fucking work in VR. There's no scopes. It's just a 2D screen that pops up. This same 2D screen also pops up whenever you have to use the camera for certain things. So just like in the PSVR version, when you put the camera up to your head, it doesn't like give you a physical scope or a screen or anything. This is like VR 101, right? We figured this out forever ago. This completely breaks the immersion. Like, I will never, ever make a loadout with a sniper in VR because it just completely doesn't feel right, especially with the tracking issue. How I said that you're always in a fixed camera. Whenever you actually scope into a camera or a scope, your screen might be like up here or over here whenever you're looking directly forward. So you gotta adjust your eyes for that, or adjust the camera for that. Completely ruins the immersion. Doesn't make you feel like you're in the game anymore. It makes you feel like you're looking at a screen. Big missed opportunity there. I mean, obviously there's a reason that they didn't do it. I don't know if it was budget or development experience or time, but it's not there. That was like one of the big things I wanted to see them improve on. I was going through the VR tutorial and I picked up the sniper and I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. When I talked about the PSVR version at the end of my last Hitman video, I said that this would have been a fantastic knock it out of the park experience if they did it right for the PC version, and they definitely made some improvements. Like, for instance, in the PSVR version, you're always holding a controller, so your two hands are always bound together, so you couldn't individually hit them with the 1-2. They made that possible. They gave you two hands to do two different things. However, all of your actions when it comes to using weapons are locked to your right hand. You can't physically crouch to crouch. You can't physically walk around your play space or look around because your camera's always locked forward as if you were playing the PSVR version. And the visuals are still a little messy. They didn't include the scopes, like a physical scope for the VR version. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun experience. It's fun to play Hitman in VR. I put over 6 hours into the PC VR version, and that's not even counting the hours that I put into the PSVR version. On top of the regular game. It's more fun to mess around in the game than ever when it's in VR, and it's really good, but there's definitely a few caveats that I feel like could be ironed out to make this the perfect Hitman VR experience. You can definitely tell that they were getting the vibe with it, they got the right idea, and they wanted to make it fun, but they have some caveats to iron out, in my opinion. I guess the only thing left to iron out is the decision you're gonna make on the VR version of Hitman. Is it something you're interested in playing? Were you planning on picking up the game for the first time to play it in VR? In my opinion, I think it's definitely a fun experience in VR. Just be sure to taper your expectations when you go into it. Personally, I'd like to see them make a few improvements, and then they got it right there, man. They'd have the winning formula. If you want to learn more about Hitman or just get more of your fill on my opinion on the Hitman franchise in general, go watch the Hitman video I just dropped because we put a lot of work into that. My homie Boggy Smalls helped me do a lot of the skits. If you enjoy that and you want to behind the scene on some of those skits and some other VR Hitman video related stuff, you can join my members tab. I got exclusive content there, and I'll have even more brewing when the next video comes out, so be looking out for that. All that being said, it's been T, guys. That's all I got. Go watch some more videos of mine. Go watch the Hitman video. If you already watched it, go watch it again. I put a lot of work into it. Bye.
Come in, Command. How copy? Got someone killed. Have anything to do with this? Yeah, you, Mr. Shifty. Look at me.
Holy fuck!
You there. Excuse me.
Oh my god!
Hey,